And we are back to another amazing episode on Insights with PT, continuing the theme of relationships, marriage, and dating, which happens to be, I think, everyone's favorite topic. So, it's your girl Tammy, and I'm here with
PT in the house.
Woo! So, we're diving straight in. We're asking all these questions, and I promise you, we're not leaving no fluff, We're going in, we're not leaving any fluff. We're going scripture-based as well, too. So, remember, it's a Christian-based counseling-wise. So, PT, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Born ready.
Let's do it. All right. So, we'll start very easy. Start pretty simple. What advice can you give us as young adults on getting married and staying married?
The truth is that marriage is tough. It's tough. Because we are both individuals, both the male and the female, with different minds and different personalities. And so when the Bible talks about two becoming one, it sounds simple, but it's not that simple. Because in becoming one to the other party, you have to gradually lose a bit of yourself, And that's not a bad thing, So don't look at it as if, do I become another person? That's not what we're talking about, Losing a bit of yourself is getting better, It's getting better, If you think so much about yourself alone, but when you're married, marriage is selfless. You understand? So you can lose a bit of that selfishness in you, or a bit of that narcissistic nature in you and become selfless. Do you understand? That loss in itself, it's tough for some people to handle, But how can we get better? Number one, your mind has to be made up that this marriage will work. When you make up your mind that this marriage will work, it will surely work because you get God to be the bedrock of the marriage. You approach very naughty situations in a place of prayer, and maybe counseling at times, or mentoring, that can help. You also treat each other as you love to be treated. Do you understand? The Bible said that love is patient, love is kind. Do you understand? It does not count, cases of wrongs. If we say that is love, then let's practice it. Let's be kind to each other. Let's be patient with each other. Let's honor each other. Let's treat each other well. All those things, when you bring it together, you find out that marriage over time will work. Someone said to me, some years ago, the lady was married for some 30-something years. I said, everybody said my husband is bad. The woman said, well, okay, where do I want to go and start again after 30 years? And this is the question of what I said to my, so where else do I want to start again after 36 years?
Right,
do you understand?
right.
Let's just be pushing ourselves on this thing and
Keep
then
going,
we go
keep
on.
going.
Yeah.
You mentioned that one has to lose themselves almost. And, in one of our previous episodes, you had talked about how you're an extrovert and, PK is also an introvert. So with two different personality types, how do you personally, I guess you would say, lose yourself but still maintain your extroverted self without dimming out the light of PK?
Yeah, earlier on I had explained what I meant by losing yourself. Not in a wrong way, but in a good way. Do you understand? But even based on the example you used, being introvert and being extrovert, for your marriage to work and for one party not to feel like they're in bondage to the other party, you have to look inwards into them also, their personality. Do you understand? My spouse is an introvert, which means that all she wants to do is just to sit on the bed at home and do nothing. I just, you have to get into a bit of that with her to know that she's not alone in that world. Do you understand? Because introverts, does not mean that they are not friendly. It doesn't mean that they don't talk to the people that they believe matter. Do you understand? I talk a lot with her. Do you understand? But she's outside, you might think she doesn't talk. I know she talks. Do you understand what I'm saying? So being an extrovert also, I pull her as well into my world. So that it's not every time that we see her at home, I say, okay, let's go and see so and so. She said, oh, I don't want to go. I said, no, we're going now. We're going now. Do you understand? But if I have my way, I will go and see people every day of the week.
Wow.
My wife can maybe go out with you maybe once. Maybe once. And that once, enjoy it. Just enjoy it. And say, okay, at least she tried. Then at least she moved from her position. That's what I meant by losing yourself. Because you can find yourself in a place where you are not, it's not usually you, or normally you, but you still thrive there. Do you understand? Because it's not something you do every day. Do you understand? So you still try to say, okay, I can do this. It's only that I can't do it often, because that's not exactly who I am.
Yeah. And even continuing on the theme of togetherness, this question is now talking about, intimacy, going into intimacy. And they've stated that they've been married for some years, but they've lost intimacy in their marriage, sex, and even talking with their spouse. And they even find talking with their spouse, uninteresting. And, you and PK, you guys often, you said you guys have a lot of conversations. So what would you advise this person in gaining that intimacy back in their marriage?
Number one, they need to go and check where did they lose it, or when did they start losing it. Things don't stop overnight in marriage. When they came to Jesus and said to him that, did Moses not say that we should give certificate of divorce to our wives for no cause at all? And Jesus said to them, in the beginning it was not so. He said, but because of the hardness of your heart. People don't harden their hearts overnight. It's a gradual thing that they start losing touch. Do you understand? When you start stopping, you stop talking to yourselves. Everybody starts going into their own world. Do you understand? When you stop exchanging ideas, people start going into their own worlds. God created sex for a reason, intimacy for a reason. It's to get to know each other more. Is to get to be closer to each other more. Now, at times, some women might not tell the men the reason why they find the sex uninteresting. If they find it uninteresting. If they believe that it's only about the man. If they believe that the hygiene is not good enough. If they believe that there are so many unresolved issues. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because sex to a woman is emotional. Sex to a man is not emotional. It's not emotional at all. Do you understand what I'm saying? So a woman who feels unappreciated by a man will find it difficult to have sex with a man. But a man can fight a woman right now and still want to have sex with her. So they are on two different levels. Do you understand? So both parties have to take themselves out of the equation and look into the other party and say, okay, what have I done wrong? I use this example many times. The fact that you don't eat vegetables does not mean that somebody should try and convince you that you must eat it. So if your spouse says that the way you've treated me, I don't like it. Excuse me, or the way you've spoken to me, I don't like it. Don't try to justify that. How did I speak to you? What did I say? Yeah. I didn't say anything wrong. I didn't. Don't just. She said to me. So it's personal to her. If you don't respect that, you will not move on. You have to respect that. So if I say I don't eat vegetables, I do. But I'm just saying, and my wife wants to cook vegetable every day. And she says, but it's good for you. I say, I don't eat it. It's not about you. You eat it, it's okay. And I'm not saying don't eat it. But I don't eat it. So if you think cooking vegetable is my love language, you have missed it. Those are, you see, people have to understand one another and be able to respect the boundaries. You do understand? So people, when they started out in this marriage, it wasn't like that. So where did they stop? How did they stop? Because questions like this don't give the true picture of a lot of things. It's only when we are in counseling one-on-one that you are able to ask questions and say, okay, what happened? And the more you probe, the more you are able to get the result. People don't give you the answers from the beginning. People don't. They will just tell you the symptoms of where they are and they will stop. Yeah. As if, oh, no. It's not magic. Something happened before you got here. And the more you peel the layers, the more you are not able to get to it. When the axe fell, the prophet asked them, where did it fall? Without knowing where the axe fell, they will never be able to recover the axe back. You have to know where it fell. Do you understand? You have to know. When God came into the Garden of Eden, and he called Adam, Adam said, I heard your voice, I was afraid because I was naked. And God said to him, how did you know that you are naked? Where did you miss it? Where did you miss it?
So then you talked about, establishing boundaries. And a lot of people have difficulties in establishing boundaries, when they're single and dating. So what steps can single people take? Can people who are, in relationships, what steps can they take to make sure they establish clear boundaries in their relationships? That way it can move forward successfully in marriage.
Yeah, it's all about communication. It's all about talking about it. Do you understand? There are some things you talk about that your spouse or your partner might not be there yet. But if they respect you and they respect who you are, over time, they shift from where they are. This is part of what I said by losing yourself. They begin to shift from where they are to be able to shift to your side. Why? Because they are trying to accommodate you in the scheme of things. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't enforce boundaries, honestly, in marriage. The reason I'm saying so is that you end up fighting too many battles. Do you understand? You end up fighting too many battles. But you can get those boundaries to be respected when your spouse sees the way you handle them and handle the boundaries that pertains to them, and they say, okay, when you say that you don't do this, I respected it. The same way, I wanted to just look at mine and respect mine also, you don't enforce things in your marriage because you are the husband or because you are the wife. Things don't work like that. We are married to human beings. Do you understand? It's like somebody demanding respect. You don't demand respect. Do you understand? You earn it over time. The person will be able to say, you know what? There's no way I cannot respect this person because I've watched you over time and you've always shown up and you've always delivered, and then I respect you for this. You understand? And, but it's in communication. That's the bottom line. It's in communication. We must learn to communicate with ourselves without, most times when people want to communicate, it's when they are fighting. And I'm saying, that's not communication now. You talk to people when you are not fighting. You try to bring out your boundaries when you are not fighting. Do you understand? And that's it. Because once you start with a fight, nobody is hearing the other party because they're focused on the fight. And at times they're focused on who's going to win. Okay.
Yeah.